This is where the fun begins.
Did you miss me? I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm doing a spontaneous live today because I've been thinking about this because today is the anniversary, or I don't even know what to call it because it's not the anniversary, but I guess you could say it is, of when the announcement came out that the EU was no longer relevant or canon or whatever you want to call it, basically clean slate for creative freedom. So I wanted to come in today, and I had to teach this morning, so I was going to make it a week of 2 coffee chats, I guess you can say, but that didn't work out. So welcome here. We're going to chat a little bit about expanded universe, what we love about it, and maybe even what we don't like about it. You know, we always love something about the franchise. We always, have a dislike with some things that happened in it. And I also want to share that some stuff that I got in the mail as well with you guys. So I figured today, instead of being like in mourning or talking passively, negatively, let's celebrate the EU today. Let's celebrate it, the richness that came about with it, the decisions that were made by Lucasfilm. Let me turn this up to make sure this is turned up. By Lucasfilm to basically keep it in one coherent history of continuity, I guess you can say, within the lore, and where that came about as well. So thank you guys. I know this is very spontaneous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe, share, and everybody like and share out that we are live here today. And I am going to address everybody in the chat. This is going to be almost like a coffee chat in a sense without cringe factor. And so I want the fans involved as well. So first question I want to ask you guys in the chat is, what is your most favorite EU novel, or maybe even series, and maybe favorite within that series, and our game, our comic? So whatever are your top favorites in those 3 things, maybe you could share your top favorite movie from each trilogy as well. So what are your favorites within each media? So movies, novels, games, comics. So let me share, let me see what you guys, what are your favorite? What are your, okay, there you go. Thank you, Soul Assassin. So he's on it. Thank you for coming in and modding. I know it was spontaneous and you are here. You showed up. Thank you so much for everybody else who showed up. So as you guys are answering this question and sharing, and let's celebrate the EU, I'm going to go ahead and open up what I have gotten here from the mail. I know what they are because, of course, I ordered them, but I wanted to share this with you because I want to get you guys excited about continuing to grow your content of, or your collection, I guess you could say, of EU content. And whether it be, oh, these must be little coupons and stuff here. Yeah, special offer stuff. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. So whatever you are finishing collecting, or if you're now collecting once again, like I am, I want to get you guys excited. So, and that could even be source materials like this beautiful thing here. Look at that. Revenge of the Sith, episode 3. This is basically, I got the receipt in there. All the art and the development of the story, concept art and stuff like that. Look how gorgeous that is. So you have like Darth Vader, a look at the sinister chambers where he is created. So it has a lot of information in here, as into art, set production, all of that. I'm pretty excited about. Look at this. So as I'm sharing here, please, I'm going to leave the question up on the screen here as you guys come in. Something must, let me have got really angry this afternoon stream. No, not really. I'm going to go through all of everything right now, but I just want to show this and then I'll interact with you guys. So right here, I do have, let's see here. I do have this one right here. So the beginning, so Ralph McCreary is one of the leading people to really give us an idea of what Star Wars is going to look like. And me, I taught yoga. I'm still in my yoga vibes. I don't have any makeup or anything on, so I apologize. Yeah. And this other one here, which is pretty much taped up really good so that, you know, the content doesn't get damaged or ripped open and stuff. So it's not, hopefully I don't cut anything. So share what got you all into the EU novels, toys, games, and what's your favorite? What's your favorite out of all those media sources? It's loud. That's loud. Oh, wow. Okay, let's see. I feel like I'm like opening up something crazy because it's like secured down. You would think, oh, well, since Laura works out all this stuff, maybe she could just rip it open. But no, she can't. Oh, maybe I can. Let's see. You're watching me struggle. There we go. Rip open the box. And because I'm always responding to anti-EU people about a certain Star Log quote, I did get the actual edition that quote comes from, you guys. You know, you got to come. Let me go ahead. You got to be prepared to show with an educational counter. So have the sources in front of you. So this has that Starlog quote that everybody seems to share without showing the contents to it, the further contents to it. So let me see here. I'm going to start at the top here. And then we have Stick Kenobi that came in. I really don't need a co-host today. I just wanted to be just one-on-one with you guys here, but thank you for the offer. Chief Eddie, hello. Zim the Despot, sup, what you doing? And I don't have nothing to drink. I just made the stream and then hopped on. I didn't grab anything to drink or anything like that. And Dicare is here. And Soul Assassin says, something must have really angered OG for the afternoon stream. Oh, yeah. No, I'm okay. I just wanted to come on and discuss the EU instead of like, doing, like I said, I posted I posted a tweet about the EU being decanonized. Hello, Batsy. And I wanted to go ahead and just come on and let's talk about the EU. Just a quick live. Eddie says, Shadows of the Empire, all media content. Nice. I have the record. And I do have some of the media content as well. Canadian Collector. Hi, OG. Hello, how are you doing? And let's see. Favorite EU novel series, Coruscant Nights trilogy. Very nice. I hardly hear it. Well, it's not anybody's favorite, but that's one that I hardly hear that it's their favorite. They were my first foray into the Star Wars novels. Awesome. And then Dicare says, guess the hall monitor was thinking we're all 14-year-olds. Since I got the EU late, I like Darth Plagueis and Darth Bane trilogy. Oh, those are great ones, and they tie in pretty well together. You get a lot of history on the Rule of Two between those two. Couture. It all started with Couture for me. Yeah, a lot of people came in with that. And then see, Batsy says, what got me into the EU as a kid was being hooked on episode 1 and reading the role-playing games Lore and Jedi Apprentice. Wow, that's amazing. That is really good to hear. Let's see here. I'm slowly scrolling down here. And I'm going to ask some series of questions just to keep our conversation going as well. That's just how I like to do it. Matt G with the coffee here. Hello. I need some coffee. I really, really do. But if I take you guys in the kitchen, my kitchen dishes needs to be done. So I don't want to expose you guys to my kitchen. So I will have something later. Holocron Library Fox. Hello, Laura. Hello, chat. Hello. How you doing? And let's see here. And, Gordon, good brother, says, "Oh, gee, I need you to help or to hit me to the thrift store with all the Star Wars stuff." You mean help you find or whatever? I have a local, not local, but it's like 20 minutes away from here. So I guess it's local for me for living on a reservation. But that antique store that I go to, I frequent a lot. They do get a lot of Star Wars stuff, whether it is Disney or pre-Disney, George Lucas era. So I always go in to find and look for stuff that I may not have, some toys I may not have, like collectibles and stuff like that. Very good place to go. I understand not all antique stores have that type of resource, but I would always check places that you normally would probably not think, especially if that store, an antique store has an exchange program there where you can bring in old used stuff or used stuff. I have a piece of hair just streaming around down my forehead. Anyways, I really love the toys and the comics. Something about old school Hasbro that has so much soul. I agree. The books, Kevin J. Anderson and God King Timothy Zahn read my first book back in 95. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Canadian Collector says it started with Tartakovsky Clone Wars and then the Republic comics. Ooh, that's a great combination. The Clone Wars multimedia project right there for you. Yeah, the Dark Horse Comics. Yeah, that is the multimedia project. The multimedia project not only was the novels, the comics and stuff, but it was also Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. That was the multimedia project there. Dark Horse Comics superior, Marvel and DC inferior. I agree. Let's see here. Dark Horse was peak Star Wars. Yeah, they really did a great job. Zim the Despot says their manga translations are cool too. Berserk is awesome. Let's see here. And we have George Lucas, the one and only George Lucas popping in. How are you doing, sir? And then Becky Brown is here. So Becky, if you haven't seen the question, those are coming in. Please like and let everybody know on your social medias that we are live here. But what are your favorites in the media of Star Wars? So your favorite movie, your favorite novel or novel series, your favorite comic or comic series, your favorite game. So let me know. So those who are tuning in. Soul Assassin. It's George Lucas. Yes, it is the maker. Let's see here. Oops, it jumped. Let's see. I'll get to that one here pretty soon. Nev says, moved into the comics and graphic novels. Dark Empire was the bomb. Yeah, I do have, and I'm going to show it again. Now, this is one of my prize position. This right here. So this has its special casing. It's leather bound. These are all Luke Skywalker comics, or at least the majority of the collection. And it's called Luke Skywalker, The Last Hope for the Galaxy. And I have a super chat. I will get to that in a pretty soon. And you have like all the comics in here. This thing is heavy. You can friggin' knock someone out with this sucker. And right here. So Luke basically is, post Return of the Jedi hero. But however, through him and through the lore during post Return of the Jedi, we received a lot more heroes, a lot more villains, a lot more stories that evolved the history of Star Wars. So when they decided to say we want a clean slate, and then people go with the green with Disney on their direction, they tend to say, well, it would be difficult for creators to make movies in that timeline. And then my counter to that is, if the creator is smart enough, gifted enough, and strong enough and confident enough in keeping continuity to all of that, it is possible. So they're saying creators today don't have the ability to, maintain continuity in a section of a lore that may seem saturated. So they're sharing that they don't have hope in today's creator, which I kind of agree, considering the direction that Disney Star Wars has gone with its own lore and continuity. Lurking Lucas. There you go, Lurking Lucas. And let's see, Star Wars toy line is unique in that the Star Wars vehicles and creatures were not meant to be toys at first and just designed for the movie, unlike the He-Mans and Transformers. Yeah, even though George did market on toys and children and stuff like that, they were characters first. George Lucas. George Lucas. And Dark Horse fan made audios. There you go. Thank you so much. And then I have a super chat from NB Geeks Bar and Grill. Thank you so much for $5. Wait, they let hot chicks in Star Wars? Oh, well, thank you so much. I don't have any makeup on or nothing. I'm still in my yoga attire. I'm still, in all of that. My hair is kind of a mess. But I decided, what the hell? You guys are going to get the raw Alora talking Star Wars and celebrating the EU. Good to see you, girl. The EU is what made me Star Wars fan. Started with Young Jedi Knights and Dark Empire. Wow, nice one there. Dark Empire and Young Jedi Knights. The consensus is a lot of people started with the Heir to the Empire. Those who did not start with the Heir to the Empire, share with us, and I already had a few already share, what you began with. Trencher says, so Star Wars is less designed to grab the attention of kids, but look more ulterior. Let's see here. And some real bangers regarding the comics. Tales of the Jedi was so well drawn and the stories were so compelling from the Old Republic. And so the Old Republic was something that was still being expanded, as well as content 40 plus years after Return of the Jedi. So we had a lot of feeling between, the PT and the OT and all the way up to Legacy of the Force, like the beginning of it, that those at the ends of the Star Wars history, expanding, early years to later years of the lore, we're starting to expand out more before the buyout. And so now we are left with, no reconciliation with Jaina and her arc, Ben, Jag, all of that, and how the family expanded and grown to what we've seen in Legacy Comics, right? And then you have a lot of gaps, between the PT where it began and Darth Bane, the Old Republic, that 200-year gap that was never expanded on. And then they were still expanding on, Dawn of the Jedi and early Old Republic stuff. And, we'll never get any more. But now we can just imagine. And that's kind of sad. But then also, I don't want them to write stories, finish those stories, because I don't trust them. So that's where I stand with that. Let's see here. Whoopsie, it jumped on me. Dark Empire. I mean, Stig and I were talking about Dark Empire too. So I got hooked by the film, then by the novels, then by Western games. Then I made my own lore. Cool. You kind of expanded from that. And that's what fans are doing now, is expanding their own lore. Becky says, movie Revenge of the Sith, book Darth Plagueis, Revenge of the Sith, Kenobi, Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader, comics, the original Clone Wars comics. Awesome. So you have a nice you're kind of in the prequel era, so the end of the Old Republic era. Pretty cool. Let's see. As much as I dislike TCW now, I will give it credit for reigniting my interest in Star Wars. Part of my dislike for TCW now is disappointment for being lied to. Yeah, I'm so sorry for that. I seen it coming as I started watching. I'm like, wait a minute here. That doesn't seem right. So, and then of course the line from Filoni and him being unfaithful or untruthful to George. I'm the only one Jedi. You're insane. No, I am Ganner. Oh, this threshold is mine. I claim it from my own. Bring on your thousands, one at a time, all in a rush. I don't give a damn. None shall pass. That was amazing. He was conflicted because he wanted that adventure of being the hero, and that was conflicting for him instead of just being who he is. And then finally he decided to accept him for himself for who he is, because he kept on trying to change himself. And when he did that is when he was able to finally become the hero. So that was such a great arc there. And let's see here. The major says Disney creators can't maintain lore. Correct. L Dub, hey, what's up? Movie Return of the Jedi. Game Couture 2. EU book Boba Fett Maze of Deception. And it is what got me into the EU. Awesome. Let's see here. And then Becky says, video game because I have epilepsy. I can't play them, but I love Lego Star Wars, the complete saga. Also Star Wars Ship. It came out around episode 2. Awesome. Let's see here. I like Disney. Almost every Lucas era characters had an action figure. Most go for a lot of money nowadays. Yeah, everybody's collecting. Everybody wants to collect these pieces, and even hardcovers like this thing right here that I showed you. This comic collection of Luke Skywalker's comics. The one I just showed you. I'm gonna grab it again. Just it's a workout for me. Right here. That was like $200. It was an investment that I absolutely do not regret. Do not regret. And then thank you, Soul Assassin, for bringing up all these content that YouTube creators are creating to keep the books in front of you, keep the stories in front of you. Because I know Young Jedi Knights, some of them, the collection is going for like $300 or $400 for 14 of the books. So those are hard to find. They're still easy you could still find them. I'm like saying they're hard, but then they're easy, but they're still out there. You just have to search for let me get this plugged in. Where's my plug-in thingy for this? You could still get it for cheap if you know where to look. So I say do that. Find them. There's certain novels and they're in certain series that may cost more than the other. And that's the difficult part. Like when you go look for Dark Forces, the last one of the series of the trilogy, of the novella trilogy, asks for a lot. If you're looking for the hardcover for Kenobi, that's a lot. So I think even Plagueis' hardcover too is a pretty penny as well. So keep your search. I haven't shared much of where you can find some of these books for cheap, and I think I will start doing that again. Well, continue to, so that if you're still collecting, I will post them in my YouTube community page on not YouTube, Twitter community page. I'll post it there, and so that you guys can have a reference. If you guys are looking for something, share it in that community. One of us may be able to find or help you out as well, so that you don't need to buy the legend label if at all cost. No pun intended, I guess, or maybe pun intended, because you don't want to give the money back to them. I used to say that before I changed my mind. I used to say buy legends to show Disney Star Wars or Disney Lucasfilm what we want as fans. But they don't care. All they care about is the money. And that goes with like even watching the shows. So instead of giving them your money and supporting future content, whether, that's coming out, because they're not going to change course. They're going to keep giving us what they feel that they need to give us, what they want to do there at the company, the stories that they want to tell. So instead of giving them the money, let's go out and find all the books that are up for sale are being sold without the Legends label. Now, there are some circumstances that maybe you do have to buy. Try to still buy them secondhand and not direct. And so those are my, words of wisdom to you guys is stop supporting the mouse if you absolutely that's the track you want to go down and you don't like the concept of the lore and the direction they're going, and start finding third-hand sources to buy your material if you're still collecting your novels and all of that. Now, Aldub says the fact that we'll never get to finish Jaina Solo's arc when she is infinitely better than Rey is very sad. Yep. Based opinion. I don't know which opinion you're talking about, but thank you. And then Queens or Kwins. I'm so sorry if I butcher that. I have my name butchered all the time, Alora, how it's spelled. So I'm sorry. I got Han Solo's Revenge and Splinters of the Mind's Eye from the Scholastic Book Club paper we got to order from the 6th grade. Oh, I remember Scholastic. Oh, I used to get some good stuff out of there too, Star Wars and other content as well. Amazing. And then Real Wade Nation Game Clips. What's up? How are you doing? Now, those who are coming in, I'm going to go ahead and present you with the same question I did earlier when we first began the live stream. What are your favorites out of the game Star Wars, original Star Wars, pre-Disney, out of the games, the novels, the movies, and the comics, and any other source? So what are your favorites out of those? Please share. Tales of the Jedi was so good. Ulick and Sunriser were amazing stories. And then the EU will be like old, elegant buildings compared to new, modern, soulless box buildings. It does not matter how much modern Star Wars they make. The greatness of the EU will always be elegant. And I agree. Who lied to George about what? Thank you. So, George, so if you look back in the history of the buyout, Disney made the decision to decanonize or toss the EU for a clean slate of creativity or creative freedom. And then Kennedy is like, we will protect these characters that you made, blah, 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 blah. And obviously, that was not the truth. So there's a short history on that. It's been repeated time and time again, but if you haven't been keeping track, then you probably wouldn't know, which is fine. I'm not saying that that's bad that you don't know. That's not what I'm saying. So a little bit of history there that, George was lied to, and he even said as much in the past, but we are past that now, even though that's still a thorn, I guess you could say. We are now past that, and we're now seeing what is being done to the lore now. So we are in the midst of this huge change. We are in the midst of the movies being retconned with how their EU's coming out. They don't have to change the movies physically. They can change it with the media sources that they are presenting. And that's the sad truth. Anyways, I'm going to move past that. We're here to celebrate the EU. My first Star Wars, and this is Batsy, comic was Republic. My first cartoon was 2D Clone Wars on DVD as a child. Oh, and speaking of, I'm going to invite a couple of guests to test with me the webinar that StreamYard has so that I fully understand how to use it, so I can schedule a watch party with my channel members for the Clone Wars 03. That's Tartakovsky's. So stay tuned for that. I'm hoping to do it towards the middle or at the end of May. So stay tuned for that. If you are not a channel member, what are you waiting for? Support the channel. If you can afford, support the channel and join us. And then we can have a nice, vivid discussion about the Clone Wars, what we liked, what we didn't like about Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. And, and then you just can hang out with me and we can, talk about that. And then maybe we can get into the multimedia project that was also wrapped around the 2D Tartakovsky Clone Wars. So that would be fun. And I'm going to finish this now. As a child, I always wanted to be a Jedi. Cool. I used to play Jedi all the time as a child. Whoa, that's what a stream. Hey, everyone. Hey there, Fractured Filter. How are you doing? And another super chat. Thank you so much, Geek Bar. Geek Spar. I wanted Sword of the Jedi and see Jaina create the Imperial Knights. I mean, to see her and Fel make the Empire to what we got in Legacy. I can dream. Well, I think we all wanted that. We all wanted to feel in like how Ben and the Skywalkers evolved the Jedi. Like, did Ben become a Grandmaster like his father? All of that is now left out. And who exactly did he end up with? And then back into the, PT or the old Republic era, what happened in that timeline? Did Darth Bane's apprentice, Darth Tana, what happened with her, and who succeeded after her line and her generation of the rule of two and stuff like that. And we do have some hints here and there of what happened, but like the full stories and stuff like that would have been so awesome to read. I'm sorry, I meant Star Wars Battleship. Okay, that's okay. It's perfectly fine. Jason says, hail top the Levy OG Star Wars. Hello. Hello, Matt G. I know he's saying hello too. So, Dotson Moon. I dumped all my original Marvel Star Wars comics because the stories were so bad. I wish they had been like the later indie books. Yeah, those early Star Wars, Marvel Star Wars comics, yeah, they were very fun but cheesy. Some people were kind of turned off to them, but back then in those early days, continuity was kind of being checked, but not as much. So there was some discrepancies here and there in the early stages. However, as the EU lore or the Star Wars lore started expanding more and more, and fans started responding to new editions of like comics coming out, novels coming out, all of that, Lucasfilm realized, wow, we're onto something. And what really hit them in the head with like, wow, the fans really want a single history. Because Sue Stoney started keeping continuity early. And then later, she joined in and started creating the Holocron, library and all that. But what really, really got them, like them to notice fans and what they really wanted was how well Heir to the Empire was received. Or actually the Thrawn trilogy, but yeah, basically Heir to the Empire. And so during that time frame, when they seen that fans wanted a coherent story, a coherent history in a single timeline, they started working that direction. They made announcements in their insider within the company as well, that they recognize how sophisticated the fans are with wanting the single continuity. And that was basically that was their focus. That has always been their focus in general, but that really not put the nail down of like, yes, we're gonna do it. We understand the fans, we want to give them what we want. It's and it's giving them money too, and so favoring the fans what they wanted also helped keep the company thriving. Let's see here. Tales was my favorite Dark Empire trilogy comic, not novel. Okay. And then was my first EU, stopped with Star Wars comics in 99, but kept the Star Wars games. Awesome. And we all have our like own trail. We all had our own trailblazed into Star Wars EU in our own ways. Whether it's games and only strictly games, whether it's gaming, comics, or whether it's all of it, whether it's just novels, what have you. So we all have our journey. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And then retired millennial. Hey, what you doing? And then Steven, how are you doing? And then OG's community. Yeah, so go there. If there's something you're looking for that you need to add to your collection, or if there's any questions you have about anything, you want to point out something significant in the EU, share it with us there. That's what it's there for. The community is not about bashing on the Disney lore. That's where my main Twitter is about, kind of, I guess. No, my main Twitter is just communicating with you guys as well, talking about Star Wars, good, bad, and ugly, whereas this community page is all George Lucas. And so whether you're looking for content, like to add more content to your library, or toy collection or whatever, that's what it's there for. Sharing lore, asking questions, creating conversations. That's what that's about. So if you haven't been there yet, go ask to be requested to add in. So be added in. Becky says, I bought the Darth Plagueis book as soon as it came out. Also have it on Audible. Yes. I forgot. I haven't listened to it on Audible in a while. Is it unabridged or is it abridged? I have to take a look. Nev says, the EU is my secondary world. Tolkien wrote this in his essays. Disney Star Wars knocked me back into a primary world. I do like finding gems from the EU, though, like Allegiance and Choices of One. Nice. The Major. I will cherry pick stuff from the new Disney stuff for my own games. Also, Karen Travis defined Mandalorians. There is no one who is going to convince me otherwise. Yeah, she was the main person to really give the Mandalorian, culture, life, all of that. So she really expanded on that. Thank you so much. Now that was my face on Jaina Solo. If you're buying from Amazon, careful, they are selling the books with the new covers. Yeah, you have to be careful. There's been instances where people got the new covers instead of what was shown on the screen when you were purchasing it. The Fracture Filtered says, yep, that will always be the way I go about finding the books is third hand. Don't want the stink of the Legends label. Yeah, unless necessarily need to, I would say still try to find the Legends label under third, not second hand or front up. My interest is the EU started with KOTOR 2, playing the game. I became curious about the EU and read Heir to the Empire trilogy as a gateway to novels. Disney lore didn't impress me in any way. You're welcome. Let me see here. Becky says, oh, wait. Question for the chat. My mod wants to have this out to you guys. Question for the chat. Can you remember the first comic, novel, or game you played? And let's see, I love reading about the Old Republic, also Exar Kun, but oh my gosh, Cade Skywalker. What a man. Yeah, that guy, he's like the best of Luke, Anakin, Mara Jade all wrapped in one, his lineage there. He's like, he has all the best of them, and maybe even Ben, but or maybe just on his own, that he's just amazing character, very different, and circumstances which he went through caused him to be that way as well. So that was a very fun, pivotal storyline of his. The Fracture Filtered says, games, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy, books, Darth Bane trilogy. I don't have my favorite comic series I can think of. Still need to go through a lot of them, but let's say Shadows of the Empire. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And Retired Millennial says, it was pretty evident why they wanted to get rid of the EU initially, though, so they don't pay the authors, which they did, but it was also about agenda, which we didn't even think about back then. Correct. And the thing is that they don't have to pay the authors for the characters they use to keep it in lore. They own that. But what they have to pay for is every novel that they've written when it's sold again. So whenever a novel is sold that the author had written, they get a royalty from that. So that's the difference on that. Lucasfilm owns the characters that they wrote. First comic would be Boba Fett, outbid, but never outgunned from the Star Wars Tales comics. Oh, that's pretty cool. Bit of Boba. And if you guys seen, I did a video about Tamora Morrison, speaking up about his experience with Lucasfilm. And so if you haven't seen that video yet, go watch it. It's been catching some ground here. And my point too, why I'm bringing this up, and I do say it in the video, is it seems like Disney, Lucasfilm, is basically fading out or putting George's characters on the shelves for their characters. And that even goes for the Clone Wars characters. They are being they are being highlighted over what George created. Now you can argue that George was, fully involved or not, which, when you look into the history and you put all the evidence together, George wasn't fully involved with TCW as many think. And but those characters that were carried on from TCW into Rebels, and those Rebels characters and any new characters that Lucasfilm is making, are now the main focus. So anything that George did, if they don't have to put those characters like Luke, Han, Leia, Boba Fett into their stories, they won't. And that's been pretty prevalent as of lately. If you watch all the shows, you will hardly see any of, pre-Disney characters used, unless they have been in Rebels and some in TCW. So there you go. So that's something I wanted to point out when now, and even in that video I pointed that out a little bit. So you guys go check out that video after we're done here. Let's see. Geeks Bar says, we got lucky. Crucible was a good end to the EU for the big four. Yeah, but then it also left a lot of what ifs about with Jaina, Jag, and Ben Skywalker. Grandmaster Chris, my first novel was Young Jedi Knights. Love the idea of Luke becoming a Jedi Master like Yoda. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I'm gonna have to read through. I actually did read through the first two of the series, and then I put them down. I just need to pick it back up and just read. I hop all over the timeline when I'm doing research, when I'm looking up stuff, when someone asks me a question, and then sometimes I'll stay on that end of the timeline and maybe pick up a book or listen to the Audible. So I'm like sporadic like that. And then Justin, hello, how you doing? I played through KOTOR 1 and 2 and Jedi Academy so many times when I was younger, I could probably recite most of the dialogue. Hey, that's pretty cool. A lot of people, I love when people can do that, when they can bring up a quote so simply because of their experience with the game, the novel, or whatever, or even the movie. Also, OG Battlefront 2 with my friends never got old. Good times. Thank you guys for sharing. And this is what it is. We're celebrating the EU. I have 32 beautiful souls here. Thank you guys for popping in. Please like, subscribe, and share if you haven't already, and become a channel member if you haven't already. E. Clay says, good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to you. How are you doing? That really sounded soft. How are you doing? How are you doing, E. Clay? Sorry about that. Oh, geez. Retired millennial says his father wasn't even a master. No, he wasn't. Luke was to be, or is what Anakin was to be, right? So when, Anakin had to go through what he had to go through to defeat the Sith. That's plain and simple, And so Luke became what Anakin could have been. And I think that's a beautiful story because Anakin did fulfill his destiny as the chosen one. And that was such a hell of a ride, right? Watching him from a young boy evolve into a Jedi, being manipulated, and through that manipulation then was, that created tension because that, Palpatine planted, hate, all of that inside of Anakin, and built upon how he felt. And then, we get his fall into the dark side. And then over time, his redemption. It was a beautiful tragic story. Luke's story began in the OT, we know that. But when he became a Jedi, that was just the beginning of his journey. And we got that in the EU. And I think that's why a lot of people today are still pretty much upset with the direction that Disney has taken the lore, right? Disney, Lucasfilm. And still upset today that this beautiful arc that was created for Luke was tossed out for the bastardization of Luke we see in the DT, which then expanded his lore pre-DT or pre-Disney Star Wars. And he will never become that for their lore. But we can be grateful we have him as the Grand Master, going through all the trials that he had gone through to get there and still has been going through, even towards Crucible, right? We still have those stories. They weren't taken away. They're just not being expanded on now. There's no more stories, which is sad, I know. But as long as they leave them alone in the timeline where they are put at right now, I'm happy. I don't want Lucasfilm under Disney to expand on any of the stories that are now coined legends. They could still bastardize their version, fine. I'm actually at the point where it's hilarious seeing all this bullshit come out. And people cheer it on still. And people say, oh, well, Luke, he was OP and we needed to see him fail. And I'm like, have you ever even watched the OT? Have you ever read the EU? Because Luke failed a lot. The difference is, even when he failed, he had the demeanor to pull himself up, be true to his morals, and stay by his friends, the Jedi and the galaxy, his family. And that's the huge difference because of Luke in Disney Star Wars. Once he failed, he ran away, was thinking about committing suicide, got how the Jedi fell very wrong, and then for Luke being one of the most powerful Force users ever to exist, at the point in post Return of the Jedi supposed to be more powerful than his father, he dies using the Force. Whereas we don't know how Luke dies in the original EU. We just know that he shows up as a Force ghost for Kate Skywalker. But damn, I bet you it was a hell of a fight. I bet you it was a hell of a way to go. I mean, he still had part of Abeloth's tentacle stuck in his chest. Just imagine that. Wow. Anyways, so there we go. And Soul Assassin says, please hit the like button and consider becoming a channel member. Yes. And Trencher says, we had the Star Wars comics in my counter, only the good ones, laugh out loud. And we all have our favorites and our least favorites. So now that you guys shared your favorites, and no judgment here because we all have something we dislike. Some of us, sometimes the consensus for a certain book is relevant or is prominent. But I want to hear from you guys. What story did you not like? And that could be anywhere in the timeline. Anywhere in the timeline, from pre-Old Republic, Old Republic, to the end of Old Republic, into the Dark Times, into the OT or Classical Era, into the New Republic, into the New Jedi Order, and into Legacy of the Force. So what story did you not like that maybe kind of turned you off and that you always skip now when you read back on the EU? So let me know, because we all have our goods and the bads and the uglies of everything, right? It's not like we thought everything was perfect, because we know we've watched the evolution. If you've been with Star Wars for as long as I have, you have watched the evolution of this franchise grow and reconstruct itself so it's coherent and concise with itself. And then Orange Hat Review, another channel member. Hello. Well, hello there. Well, hello there too. I hope you're feeling better after your procedures and stuff. Clay Thompson, or E-Clay says 07. I don't know what that means. Did I miss something? Anyways, Grandmaster Chris says hello there. And let's see here. And then we have Clifton 3D. Hell, y'all. Hey, what's up? How are you doing? Becky says, oh, and my favorite toys was the Ewok Tree Village. Nice. My grandma had that at her house, and I would play Tusken Raiders versus Ewoks. Wow. That must have been a very interesting little play right there. Tuskens against Ewoks. Interesting. All right. Thanks for sharing. And let's see here. EU Talk A. I really wish we could have seen the adaptation of Rise of Darth Vader. That would have been a great movie under Lucas. That would have been interesting, even to see him contemplate like who he is now versus, Vader versus Anakin and all of that. And even his adjustment to the suit. That would have been amazing to see. I know we all, when we read that novel, we all vision in our head. So we all have our own images and what it looks like and stuff like that. But that would have been nice to see. Retired says, funny thing is, I didn't even know these books existed growing up. Kind of read them around the time Disney bought them. There are some people that came into the EU once the buyout happened, because they got turned off by Disney. and then they discovered that there was a whole plethora of lore out there that Star Wars under George created. The movies never, it was never a movie franchise, or never just the movies. In fact, the first publication that to come out was the movie novel, not the movie. It always been intended to be the movies, the books, all of that under George. That was always the focus, on giving his story and then having people come in and write for him as well. So that was always the intention of George Lucas. Grandmaster Chris, early 2000s produced some great Star Wars games. Yeah, Lucas Arts. And then they started kind of going under a little bit, which was kind of heartbreaking to see. Steven says, I'm sharing the stream to Facebook pages. Thank you so much for sharing it out. Orange Hat says, Volcorion, I always have difficult with some certain names, sorry, does a lot of good EU knowledge that he adds to the community. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much for him doing that. Let me scroll down and see what you guys are saying. Past conversations with each other. I will DM you about what is going to happen. Okay. And then let's see here. KOTOR is one of the best RPGs ever. I love Darth Bane trilogy. I would love Darth Zana trilogy. I would have loved to see what happened with Zana. Maybe Earth Bane trilogy. Don't remember. You mean Darth Bane? Don't you love spell check when it's like, I don't understand what you mean by Darth, so we'll give you Earth. Kate Skywalker is amazing as fuck, and the really metal looking man. I think that's where everybody kind of loved, what they loved about him is that he was a Skywalker with a totally different concept, but it still worked in the context of the family dynamics. And then, and the story being 120 odd years after A New Hope and stuff really just lent to a new exploration of the timeline. Just like when you go back to, post Old Republic lore there, it's, the concept can be kind of different because of the evolution of Star Wars, the history and stuff. And I think that's what everybody wanted with the Disney Star Wars lore, but they didn't quite get it. They were expecting something kind of new, something they never seen before, while still keeping in continuity with the movies and stuff, and it never happened. Never happened. Trencher says, yes, the first Star Wars comics I read was about Han Solo being hunted through an ancient abandoned city of stormtroopers and dog-headed Force user for hire. Oh, yeah. How fun. I never played the original Star Wars games for some reason, either price or PC. I don't know. Yeah, there's certain reasons why we didn't do certain things within the lore and stuff. Whether, I was more of a novel reader, not a comic reader, so I didn't really expand too much on the comics. By the time Star Wars really started having games come out, I was on dance teams and stuff like that. So my time was now more focused on, if I was reading, it was before bed, but not playing games. I even stopped playing Super Mario Brothers and other games that I had. So it wasn't just because of Star Wars. I don't know how to word that exactly right. But yeah, my time was taken to where I couldn't commit to a game. There we go. Took me long enough to say that, right? Grandmaster Chris says they needed creative freedom to rehash A New Hope. Yes, they did. Let's see here. A bit of Death Sticks issue Cade had. Yes, he did. Because he was trying to drown out his visions and stuff in the Force. They don't pay authors anymore. They have started to, I believe, but I have to check into that because Timothy Zahn still gets his royalties and stuff. So that's one thing. Maybe I have to do another video on that just to explore on that. And then my video there. Let's see. Timura already let us know he was being mistreated in Book of Boba Fett, in my honest opinion. Yeah, he did. There was a lot that we've seen that happened that even when Tamara didn't announce what was going on, that we called out. Now people are surprised, acting like they never heard it until now, which I'm like, where have you guys been in all of this? I think they wanted to like something so bad that they just kind of not paid attention to anything that was going around them when it came to stuff like that. The Anonymous Gamer, the only Star Wars comics I've read are the Dark Empire comics and the Clone Wars multimedia comics from Dark Horse. Awesome comics, by the way. I agree. I know you guys are all going through your stuff here, and this is what this is about. We're going to go probably about maybe 15 more minutes, and then I got to get busy on some personal stuff here in my studio. So Galadron says, first game was technically paper Star Wars, drawing X-Wing versus TIEs on a folded piece of paper with classmates. Wow. Okay. The imagination we had back then, right? Grandmaster says that Ahsoka show will be heir to the Empire with Ahsoka in the role of Luke. I have already spoken out about this. There's no way they can adapt it because of the fact that they won't have the same characters other than Thrawn. And even though it's probably around about the same timeline, it has already been shown that it's going to be a continuation of what happened in Rebels in the epilogue and all that. So there's no way there could be an adaptation at all because not even the characters line up, not even the story lines up with what is going on in the universe during that time. Geekspar says legacy, them using jokes that Jason said young Jedi Knights. It made for me reading these books even harder to see him fall so far for the right reasons in his opinion. Yeah, those callbacks, tearful, aren't they? Because Jaina, like they're remembering from the young Jedi Knights all his like dry jokes and his humor and his love of animals or species, pets and stuff like that. All of that, so heartbreaking. Steven says, hey OG, you're not gonna believe this. I was sharing the stream to Facebook page and oh man, I was just kicked what the frack. Well, I guess that says a lot. Wowzers, they can't stand our power. Oh wow. So what community did you share that in? Because there's some groups that don't like any other opinion other than their little echo chamber there. Apathy is death, worse than death. Let me see here. You guys are all sharing here. I want to scroll down a little bit more. Let's see here. Just for fun for you, 2 of my dogs are named Luke and Jade. Takes a guess who we named them after. I don't know. I have no idea. They destroyed Luke to prop up Palpatine's granddaughter. Yeah, that's one thing that we have. So we have a quiz here from Open Airlock Policy Quiz. What do you do when you don't know anything about your favorite franchise? And he did tweet about this. So if you guys follow him on Twitter, please go do that. You will kind of know the answer. So what do you do when you don't know anything about your favorite franchise? I already know this answer. If anybody wants to say the answer, please go ahead. I wish there was a way I can pin this and still show others. I guess, is there a way? Let me see. No, I could just star it and it'll go into my little box, but never mind. Geekspar said, I got Michael Stackpole to sign Union. Wow, nice. I would love to do that. Have some of them authors while they're still alive sign some of my books. I never had that opportunity growing up. We just couldn't afford for me to go anywhere, really. Not with all the stuff that I was in and doing, and then limitations of finances, all of that. So, and then as I got older, it just wasn't happening then too. Work was always happening. You hire Jar Jar Abrams. That was one answer, I think. It's tragic what Disney did to the EU. I knew that there were a lot of stories after the films. I just didn't take the time to invest in it. And I hope you are now. And, there's within the timeline, there's history, plethora of books in the history, post or prequel trilogy, all the way past and between the OT and the PT. And, so it expands out. So the history is like 25,000 plus years of history. It's a beautiful thing. So you can find out which era you like and start from there. You don't have to start all the way at the beginning. You could start post Return of the Jedi. You can start in the prequel trilogy era, wherever your interest, is where you want to start at. You can talk to me or other people who are knowledgeable and can give you some pointers on where to start with, what novels to start and what have you. Robert says, in Truce at Bakura, right after Return of the Jedi, Luke almost uses the dark side. He stops himself and trusts in the Force again. That was my first book. Now, I love the fact that Truce at Bakura gave us like hours after Endor. And we have Luke basically just nearly crippled and having to recover in the medic. And they literally was telling him, you need to go lay down or we're going to, basically knock you out. Because your body needs to rest and heal. And that's from the Force lightning. And it made it so real for me to have Luke go through that in a sense, or see him, not have, because I didn't make him do it, but to see him go through that and him wanting to bounce back up and still help. That is very different to the Luke that Disney has given these fans today. You had a Luke injured from Force lightning where his bones were calcifying. And he needed to rest and recover, heal. Still ready to help. He still went out and helped Wedge when he got into a predicament. If you haven't read it, I'm not going to tell you what happened. Versus the Luke where he basically fails, didn't learn everything that he learned from, his training from the OT, those pivotal training points in the OT. And then runs away from his responsibilities instead of wanting to stay and help. He runs away, wants to commit suicide, wants to die, wants the Jedi to end, all of that bullshit. And then finally uses the Force to antagonize his nephew, that's the Disney nephew, I guess you could say, and dies from it. So there's a difference, so, I mean, that's a huge contrast. Yeah. But that's what I love about Truce. One of the things I like about Truce at Bakura is that it puts in perspective of what exactly Luke went through when he was facing Palpatine and his Force lightning. And if Vader didn't, or Anakin didn't come back, or Anakin didn't come back for the sake of love, of unconditional love, to save his son, Luke was fried. He was going down. We know that. Yeah. So that story, good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see here. Skyhound says, I don't bother using the fan wikis because they can easily be screwed up by anyone. Yeah, they have. I have proven time and time again. They have proven time and time again that they're not accurate. Let's see here. It says, 1, created theories. There you go. So I was giving you guys all a chance here. So here it is. 1, create theories. So what do people do if they don't know much about the franchise they say they love? 1, they create theories. 2, create bullshit insider rumors. 3, provide fence-sitting and absolute dog shit analysis of current products. Yep, that's where we're at today. That's the climate of these Star Wars fans today. Let's see here. There is a story where he is also secluded on a planet in the EU. Which book is that? Where he creates an illusion to cover the swing or something. there is a story where he is secluded on a planet in the EU. Now I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I've read back some of these EU books, so I'll get back to you on that unless someone says something. The Force Unleashed 2 was probably my least favorite. Oh yeah, we're getting into that. So what is your least favorite of the timeline here? Started Theory Channel Tim. Hey there, Dan. What's up? That's the answer. I dislike anything with Ferris Olin. Wow, I can't stand him. So you don't like The Last of the Jedi, or do you like the story at least with Obi-Wan having to go, erase any remaining evidence of the birth of the twins and stuff? I mean, that's fine. I've never heard anybody say they didn't like Ferris Olin, but that's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty valid for you, I guess. Yeah. The Vong was poorly written. I think it took me forever to get through it. Really, I really loved the story, the Yuzhong Vong. There's some stories within that timeline that I didn't care for as much, but I really love that they were a force to reckon with. They were a new type of villains. Nothing, ones that the Empire, Remnant, and even the New Republic or Galactic Alliance has ever seen before, or dealt or faced with before. And that raised the stakes for Star Wars, I think. And you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. Jason says, for me, it has to be Dark Empire. Don't hate it, but was not in my top pick. It has stuff I did not like, but yeah. And that's fair too. Like I said, you guys all have fair points onto what you like and dislike. We're all going to be different. And that's what makes the fan base, the EU elitist fan base, right? I should have called this EU elitist talk, right? Fan base, unique. Soul Assassin says, I would say the Legacy Volume 2 story with Anaya. Is it Anaya or is it Anya? Solo lost interest halfway through. And I heard a lot of people say that. I understood what you say. I had to go back and read it though when I first read it, as you could tell. The bong. I'm like, the bong? Are you lighting up a bong? What's going on here? 420 already passed, dude. Hey there, Wild Katarn. The canon comics show Vader pretty much simply inconvinced by the suit. In the Dark Lord novel, Vader had panic attacks and moments of absolute depression and thoughts of fatalism. Yeah, there you go. And I know you've been keeping up on that, and I enjoy the fact that you've been sharing what you think about them and stuff with me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Grandmaster Chris says, anyone here listening to the original Star Wars audio dramas? I have. And I was thinking about going back to the audio drama of the Dark Empire. Here we go. So we have Skyhound. How you doing? I actually found Shadows of the Empire to be an interesting story, even though it was an N64 game. There are a few videos that document a game in the format of what is almost movie by itself. The Shadows of the Empire was a very awesome, a very unique multimedia project. I believe it's the first one in the franchise at the time. We all get that, right? My phone, when I text on my phone, especially on Twitter, if you want to be amused by spell check shit, just go read some of my tweets. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. Retired Millennial says, I just realized I wrote Earthbane. Yeah, that's fine. I knew what you meant. And so my phone is screwing me lately. Yeah, that's the story of my life. All right, so I'm going to have one more question as we go through here, and then we're going to call it a day. I just wanted to have a fun little chat with you guys. Celebrate the EU. It's still here. It's not dead in a sense that, that we can't get a hold of it, or the beautiful, unique stories. We can't sit here and talk about it and stuff. We may not have liked the decision that was made 9 years ago about the EU. However, what we know now, I am glad that they made that decision, because then the stories have been, pretty much bastardized even more than just inserting and cherry picking a storyline or a character to be put inside the lore, right? So I'm pretty happy now with the fact that they're not being continued. Some of you guys may not agree with me, and my point is that the trust factor, that they will, like, their story group will not keep continuity, not keep the writers in check. There's no George Lucas with the rules and the guidelines that he set for them. There's no, and I'm sorry, Leland Chi seems pretty non-existent now. And so I don't even hold him into regards to keeping anything straight and coherent if they continued the original EU. So that's my hot take of the day. A lot of people like to do their hot takes. Let's see here. Let me go through some of these here. For me, I kind of want to know, after Zana's time, like why Darth Cognis allowed her apprentice to live after he left and found the prophets of the dark side. And that's the thing. There's some unresolved stories, right? Like, why did this happen this way? We will never know. Would we have gotten more stories about that? Maybe. But now we can only speculate, right? Now we can only imagine. Soul Assassin says, I reckon Cade was a descent of Ben and Vestora Kai. I don't think so. I don't think that Ben would have brought him back after such a how untruthful she was, and how she was trying to get his cousin killed and stuff. So I don't think that trust would be. I don't think Ben would be that ignorant to bring her back. But that's my take on that. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I don't think he's that stupid to bring her back into the picture. Orange Hat Review says, imagine a Sith that stayed alive out of sheer hatred and will. One who could die and revive time and time again. Us EU fans don't have to imagine. We have Darth Sion, Lord of Pain of the Sith Triumvirate. Yes. Let's see here. My first, and this is from Jason, my first comics was Star Wars, Dawn of the Jedi, Dark Horse, and last was Legacy with Cade. Yeah, so Dark Horse comics there. And first book must be Legacy of the Force when I was a young lad. Nice. And let me see here. I think not all of them. Let me see here. And we have Phil that came in, that is here, not came in because he's probably still here with us. Hello there. And Trencher says the blatant disrespect of Tamora and Boba character was very disheartening. Yeah, so if you haven't watched that video after we're done here, go check it out and leave me a comment and share out. And Dotson Moon says we used to draw the Swing and TIE Fighter too, as little kids. We had such great imaginations growing up, and it's kind of sad seeing these newer generations come up and not have that type of imagination, that they're always stuck in front of the phone. Now, playing games, that's fine. I've done that growing up. But getting outside, playing, imagining a whole new world from outside, playing, building little forts or little landscapes of the world that you're playing inside, whether it's Star Wars or not or whatever. I mean, so much fun. It was so fun. And then just to go to rivers and lakes and all that, to swim, all of that, all fun. Yes, please hit the like. And let me see here. I think you've already said that two Dark Jedi seen in the Ahsoka I know what you meant trailer are survivors of Order 66. Filoni really needs to get out of that era. That's what I seen too. And there are survivors of Order 66, and some were killed, some were made into Inquisitors or what have you. But all in all, I think, was it George that said that there was like altogether 100 or less. And by the time we get to the OT, the majority of them are gone, whether they were killed or basically just disappeared and was never to be seen again. And I think there's one occasion where one or two, created a whole new kind of for society. And that was very interesting too. So, so there's all that. But now all of a sudden, like, everybody's surviving. Everybody's surviving now. Trencher says, we don't like to talk about it, but usual suspects have taken over communities to spread their message. I'm pretty sure they did. Let's see here. The independent publishers, it was so popular that the issues were where the twins first appear went out of the world price-wise until they realized Disney wasn't going to use it. Let me see here. I'm going to scroll down here. And we're going to start wrapping up. I know you guys have a lot to say. Like, again, I wanted just to come on here and celebrate the EU. Have fun talking about it, within about an hour, a little over an hour. That was my set time frame with you guys. And just have fun. It's still here with us. It kind of breaks my heart when I see people on Twitter saying, acting like the EU is gone. It's not gone. It's still here. We're not getting any stories, but the content's still here. We can still assess. We can still read it, play it, enjoy it, have fun with it. And don't let EU haters use that as like, oh, well, you still got the EU. Don't let them gaslight you and talk shit back to you like it's a negative thing. You could still love and adore everything that came before and still talk about, what's going on in Star Wars news today and still share, what you may or may not like about it. Because I have given Disney Star Wars some credit where credit's due. It's been far and few in between, but I have. Doesn't mean that's where my interest is at. My interest is pre-Disney lore. And it's always going to stay that way. And I will still always compare and contrast between the two as a type of valuation of what's going on between, especially when EU characters are inserted, like Thrawn. I did share something about Thrawn today. And that's coming up. Thrawn is coming up. So one more question before we leave here. And I'm going to scroll down. I know you guys are talking in there and leaving comments, and thank you so much. But let's see here. Who is your absolute favorite character? Try to think someone that's not too popular, because a lot of popular ones are. So if there's one that's, that you may think that may be underrated, that has been catching your eye as of lately, share in the comments. Let's hear some names that are hardly ever thrown out. So who is your favorite underrated character? Some, a character that may not be too popular, but you rather like for whatever reason. Share. I'm scrolling down. So share. Who is your favorite underrated comic, or not, our Star Wars, our EU character, not just comic, but novels, game, or what have you. Because there's so many characters, and a lot of them had some significant storylines, whether they're long or short. And I have one right here. Neo Nub. He was cool. Awesome. Kate Skywalker will always be my favorite. I'm like, not one that is like, very popular. And he's like, bam, Kate Skywalker. Let me see here. Oh, Zane. Awesome. I remember when I first read the Kenobi novel and he was referenced by Obi-Wan. That was pretty cool. My favorite underrated or unknown is Alana Benico. Nice. Let's see here. Starkiller is my favorite underrated character. Oh, there was a lot of heat going on about him recently on Twitter. I was following that shit. Honestly, Ahsoka and Luke's my favorite. I know she is popular, but her and Luke Skywalker taught me, I know what you're saying, taught me to find strength to do the hard stuff, even if I'm doing them solo. Okay, fair enough. The only EU books I've heard were absolutely terrible were Crystal Star and Jedi Academy Trilogy, Callisto Trilogy, and Darkness Trilogy. Also, so you heard they were, but have you experienced them? And also anything Denning related outside of TG. Oh wow! So this is this by your experience, or is this what you're hearing people talk about? Because I rather like Jedi Academy. Callisto Trilogy, I don't have a problem with. Not my favorite, but I don't have a problem with that. And that's just me. Darkness Trilogy, I rather like because of the callback of history and the discovery of who Padme is through R2-D2. Very compelling to me. Let me see her. Oh, okay. So Tok, from the Jedi Armor Smith from the Tales of the Jedi, the humanoid horse species. Okay, awesome. And see, look, we're throwing out names that some people may not know. And so kind of maybe it'll intrigue someone to want to go into those series or learn more about that character. That's what this is all about. All right, so I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes here. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, I just wanted to talk the EU, celebrate it for what it is and what it always will be to all of us here in the greater Star Wars community under George Lucas era of Star Wars. Remember that today you may see people like the EU haters come out and talk shit. The thing is that they're still trying to defend the direction that Lucasfilm decided to go under Disney. And they have no ground to stand because a lot of things that they called out are now made 100 times worse in the Disney lore. So think about that. They really don't have any ground to stand on, really. They don't. Let's see here. How do you feel about Bastila? That's fine. I mean, she's one of them popular ones, but hardly anybody talks about her from what I've seen. Let me see here. I mean, from what I've seen, doesn't mean that she's not talked about, because I know there's a huge fan base of the Knights of the Old Republic series. And then that's mostly a friend who's way more into the EU than I've ever been. Hates Denning stories with a passion. Favorite character is Starkiller for the most part. Okay, well, I say experience Denning stories on your own, because there are some, like with every author, there's some I like that I thought were very strong writing of theirs in the lore, and then some I thought that were weak. And that's including Denning. So Denning, I think he's one of those too that had some strong stories in the EU and some that, he could have done better with. But overall, he's not bad whatsoever. And the stories that he has given are pretty good too. Are pretty coherent with the timeline. Zane, Revan, and Exile make up the Old Republic saga. Just Zane is a comic series, not a game. Correct. All right. I can't think of any underrated characters. So many good ones. I know that's the hard thing, is like once you get into the EU and the more you read and read and read, the more you realize, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. IG88, laugh out loud. And thank you guys for popping in for a last minute live stream. Like I said, I just wanted to come in and talk EU with you guys on this day and touch bases with you guys as a greater community here. Thank you guys for your continued support. Thank you guys for always showing up and chatting, getting into Star Wars with me. And yeah, you guys are amazing. And again, join the Twitter, YouTube community so that, you can you can be with like-minded people. You can get the support if you're starting in the EU for the first time or barely getting into it or very new to it. You have the support. You can post lore information. You can post questions, topics, or what have you. That's what the community is about. And I also have my community page here on YouTube, which is sometimes I've been forgetting lately because to me, I just forget about it all the time. I try to keep some things together with the YouTube community, with the community page here on YouTube, Twitter and YouTube, basically what I mean. So stay tuned with that. So I'm going to try to be more consistent with, publishing the community stuff here on YouTube as well as on Twitter community page, so that you guys can get a little bit of both. And then also tweet on the YouTube community page, reach out to the channel members and start, offering more content pertaining to the EU and stuff, and more conversations with that as well. So thank you guys again. Remember, CAF Chat is this Thursday. So in 2 days, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Stay tuned for topics. I will be looking here between now and Wednesday night when I create the live stream on what the topics are going to be. If you have any recommendations, which you want to see what we talk about lore, share that with me on Twitter in the community page as well. I'm always open for new ideas or other discussions. Sometimes that helps me. Sometimes Cringe Factor gives me a topic to discuss too, so that we can look at the original lore concept of what they're talking about versus the bastardized version of the person writing about it. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I shall see you on social media and talk to you guys later. May the force be with you. Have a good night.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave 1, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
Another happy landing.